What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another market update. We're going to focus in this video on loose graded figures, mainly from AFA and UKG, but I did sneak in one or two collector archive services loose graded figures. I also owe an apology. One of my Patreon supporters, I said his name was Chris Berry. It's actually not. It's Chris Berry Man. So Chris, sorry about that. I didn't read your email quite right. And thank you for becoming a Patreon supporter. For those of you interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, it's patreon.com/actionfiguregrader. We've got some really nice items, everything from first 12 to last 17 to go through. So without further ado, let's dig in. The first one is a 1977 Jawa dark brown stitch. It was graded AFA 85. It was the Hong Kong variation and had the brand new case style. Tough to see what it looks like in the photos. Awfully dark in those photos. But here's the label on that, AFA 85. It was listed for $175, and the best offer that was accepted was $150, and that was free shipping as well. I thought that price was great. I mean, you know, loose ungraded, these can sell for $70 sometimes. So I think that was a really good deal. The Hong Kong with the dark brown stitch is a fairly common variation, and you know, there's a light brown stitch which I'm going to show you in a second, but I think overall $150 free shipping is a pretty great deal. And as I said, here's the light brown stitch, also a very common one. Same case here, where it's the Hong Kong with the brand new case style, and this one was at auction. This one sold for $179.50 plus $585 shipping, so let's call it about $185. So again, for those of you looking for an AFA 85 Jawa, the price range is $150 to about $180 or so, $185. So it gives you a couple of options there, a couple of data points. Next up, this was an interesting one. This one sat on the market for a long time, and it was listed in a buy it now situation for like $700 or something. And what this is a UKG 85, but it's a poor sonic weld POC PBP Jawa. And so the Spanish POC figure has the Hong Kong COO, as you can see on this. Now this one had the light brown bandolier. There's also a dark brown bandolier, which I also have in my collection. I honestly think that mine was mislabeled because the bandolier color is not that much darker, if at all, versus this one. But you know, when it says weak weld or poor sonic welding on these cases, just keep in mind that that's not a non-sonic welded figure. A non-sonic welded figure means it has absolutely no residue whatsoever on the connecting pieces for the torso, and it was true overstock, or it was just never assembled through a factory error. And these Spanish figures are known to have weak welds. They can just fall apart in your hand sometimes. And UKG and CAS, they will grade those. AFA does not grade weak welds. But I think because Spanish figures are kind of known for that, they're willing to grade those now. For a long time, they wouldn't grade these. They would just reject them. And I had several like this that were either lily-letty, overstock, unpainted, but the weld on it had fallen apart, or I think I had a couple of Spanish figures that were rejected. But nowadays they actually do grade those, so that's kind of nice that they do it, and I think they should, quite honestly, because it's such a common problem with these early Spanish figures that the sonic weld just didn't hold together. It's nice to be able to encase them, authenticate them. I don't know about signing an 85 grade to it. I think it should be at best a 75 grade for anything that's a weak weld, because I mean, technically it's a fallen apart figure. The figure has fallen apart, and so I don't know how it can get an 85% in that respect. But I'm not a grading company, so I just think that that's my personal opinion on it. I think that it should be an automatic 75 at best if it's got clean paint and, you know, it's 100% complete and there's no other kind of major defects to it. If it's just the kind of thing where the weld has fallen apart, like it shows on this label here, I think the 75 should be your absolute highest score, personally. Next up, I got a Chewbacca. This is a Hong Kong Chewbacca, very standard figure. This one sold for $199.99. And that's kind of at the upper end of the range. I think in an auction, you're probably looking at probably $150 to $175. Maybe I'm a little low in my estimate there, but you know, some of these figures that I'm going to cover in this video are more common high-grade figures. And the premise has been on the channel that as we kind of head into a potential recession, that the more common figures, even in high grade, are going to come down in price just because of supply and demand. There's less demand because collectors are tightening up their purse strings to pay for everyday living expenses, and supply is up, right? Because these are common figures and not particularly difficult to find. Whether that holds true or not, we'll wait and see, but at least right now, for a very common Hong Kong Chewbacca in an AFA 85 brand new K style, it's still sold for $200 plus $8 shipping. Next up is a Princess Leia. It was loose graded. This one had the brown hair and belt variation. There's obviously also the black hair and belt. This was the Hong Kong COO. Pretty nice looking figure overall with the brand new case style, and that did sell at auctions for $315. That maybe is a little bit on the higher end of the scale, but you know, any Princess Leia that's in fairly high grade, near mint or near mint plus, AFA 80 or 85, that's kind of the going rate, unfortunately. You know, it's very rare that you see an AFA 80 Princess Leia sell for less than $300. I can't remember that off the top of my head, specifically with AFA figures. You might be able to get it with CAS or with UKG 80s, but at least with AFA graded figures, it's just really tough to find it for less than $300. The same seller, which is Jeff's Collectible Empire, Jeff Jacob, he's a great guy. He also had this one, which was a very high grade, light gray hair, no COO Obi-Wan Kenobi graded 85 plus. Very difficult to find this no COO figure. So these would appear on like Trilogo cards or straight Palatoy card backs. And the price reflected that. You know, it's an AFA 85 plus. We talked ad nauseum about how when you get into 85 pluses or into AFA 90s, you're going to be paying a lot more for them. And that's certainly the case here. This one sold for $471 and change plus $10 shipping. And then you compare that to an older case style, uncirculated 80 plus. So this is two rungs down, right? You go from an 80 plus to an 85 to an 85 plus, which is what the last one we just saw. And again, that was a no COO. So again, this is not apples to apples because it's a different figure country of origin. But this Hong Kong U80 plus was listed for $249. The best offer that was accepted was $212. So just keep that in mind that, you know, again, you're talking over double to go from an 80 plus to an 85 plus. And again, the COOs are not exact. One of them's a Hong Kong, one of them's a no COO. But that at least gives you an idea of how much the price can vary depending on how high the grade is. And now's a pretty good time to mention that if you have a collection to sell, whether it's loose graded mint on card or graded mint on card vehicles, whatever you've got, creatures, you can reach out to me at actionfiguregrader@gmail.com, and I will put you in touch with buyers that pay very fair prices. They pay market prices and allow you to avoid eBay fees, taxes, reporting, things like that. Again, just reach out to me by email and I'll be happy to put you in touch with them. I don't charge anything for it. I don't get anything out of it, but I have had several subscribers that have sold here recently to some trusted friends, and everybody's been very happy with everything. So don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have a collection to sell. Back to the data, we've got an AFA 90 plus trash monster. This is the Dianoga trash monster. And again, 90 plus, very, very high grade. Not particularly difficult to find this one, but it is a 90 plus, so you're going to pay a little bit more for it. And I thought this final sales price was fantastic. $204.50. I mean, an AFA 85 can often go for $150 plus. So to get a 90 plus grade for this trash monster, I thought was a great deal, plus $10 shipping. Next up is kind of a mid-grade. It was a 70 plus blue snaggletooth. Any blue snaggletooth is pretty popular. Even ungraded, they can go for $300 to $400. This one, again, is only a 70 plus, and you can see the very obvious wear on the boots, which is the most common problem. He also has some chipping on his hands. The silver on his belt buckle is pretty much gone. But surprisingly, the torso on this one is not discolored. That's usually one of the first things that goes wrong with these blue snaggletooth figures. But brand new case style, and you know, again, if you're on a budget and you're okay with a little bit lower grade, this one was a 70 plus. You can double that price pretty easily to go to an 85, if not higher. But to get that blue snaggletooth in a 70 plus, that one sold for $675 plus $8.70 shipping. Here was a very high grade AFA 85 Taiwan Boba Fett. This one had the correct blaster, as well as kind of that dark brown belt that is very common for these Taiwan Fets. And beautiful brand new case style. Here's the label on that. It had the archival case. Again, it was a Taiwan AFA 85, and that sold for $610 plus $10 shipping. So let's call that $620. That's a little high. That's a little high, quite obviously. I mean, you know, it's a beautiful figure. I'm not trying to discredit the figure by any means, because it is gorgeous. But I think in an auction, you could probably pick this one up closer to under $500, somewhere between $450 and $500. Just a guess. I haven't looked at AFA 85 Taiwan FETs in a while, but it just seems like there's a pretty big supply of them right now. And so just be careful not to overpay. You know, again, if you happen to be watching this and you bought this, I'm not criticizing you. We all pay what we want to pay, and I certainly have paid at the upper end, if not above the upper end of the scale for certain items. But I did think that was maybe just a little bit high. But that was a gorgeous example of a Taiwan FET. Here was a Trilogo Boba Fett. So this was made in the Spanish factory. This had the older case style and was an AFA 80, light blue, painted knee. Well, I don't think unpainted knee, excuse me. This is the unpainted knee. And what is the unpainted knee? You can see that little shin piece on his right leg there below the knee pad. That was unpainted. Obviously, this also came with a painted knee. The dart on his left arm can either be painted or unpainted, and the belt colors can also vary pretty widely. But anyway, that one sold. It was listed for $675. The best offer that was accepted was $600. And again, I think that was a little bit high because we documented several UKG 80% Trilogo FETs, which is usually the Trilogo FETs, because they were made and released over in Europe. They're usually graded by UKG, but we documented several that sold in the $200 to $300 range. So $600 for an AFA 80, that seems like a pretty steep price to pay just to go from a UKG to an AFA graded example. But certainly a pretty item, and congratulations to whoever bought that. Here is a CAS graded item, and I thought this one was worth pointing out. A really cool item. This is one of those custom displays that CAS does where they take a used card back and then they loose grade the figure and display it in front of the card back to kind of make it look like a mint on card. And so this one had you know, a 21 back FET card back, and obviously the proof of purchase had been cut out, so the card was in pretty rough shape, but the figure certainly looks nice there, and the figure graded in CAS 85 plus, and it's the Hong Kong figure. That one sold for $1,000. $1,000. So, you know, keep in mind, let's say it's an AFA 85 loose graded Hong Kong Boba Fett. You know, you're probably talking what, $300? And so to pay $1,000 just to get a card back, and it also has a hole in the card back, me personally, I wouldn't pay that, but it is a 21 back card back, so people are going to be willing to pay up for that, and it certainly displays very nicely. And that's a nice service that that Collector Archive Services offers. I've taken a number of used Lily Letty card backs and then had the loose Lily Letty figure displayed in front of it, and it really does display very nicely. And it's not that expensive. It's probably $80 or so, which I think is worth it because it, you know, there's a lot of customization that goes into it. They put a piece of acrylic in front of the card back and then have the display stand for the figure, and then they have the recessed case for the accessory on the side of the case. I think it's a very ingenious design, and it's a good way to kind of budget collect, because I certainly cannot collect mint on card Lily Lettys. You're talking thousands of dollars sometimes for those. So to get a used card back and then have the Lily Letty loose graded figure in front of it is kind of a nice cheaper alternative. Next up, we had an AFA 85 Hong Kong Brown Snake Yoda with the brand new case style. That sold at auction for $280 plus $585 shipping, 13 bids. And I wanted to compare it to this one. This is the exact same figure, exact same COO, exact same grade, and that one sold for $400 in a buy it now situation. So this is just a lesson for those of you who are itching to get a certain figure. Don't overpay, because for the exact same figure in an auction, it was $285 after shipping versus $400 with free shipping. That's a big, big price difference, and you just got to be patient and get something that is very fairly priced. And clearly this was an overpay relative to the exact same figure, exact same everything that went for quite a bit less. Next up, I've got a loose graded R2-D2. This was the original first 12 in a Hong Kong COO, and that was graded 85. Now, it was an older case style, and that kept the price down. You know, it sold for $200. Now, if it had the brand new case style and it was an AFA 85, we've documented several on the channel that have sold for over $400 or double that price. So again, it all depends on what you're willing to live with. In this case, somebody was willing to live with the older case style because they were compensated accordingly. They got it for half the price of a brand new case style R2-D2. And you can certainly send this one back in. You know, this was the kind of item that I'd probably send back in And AFA only charges, I think, $25 to $35 for the new case style. And the turnaround times are very reasonable, probably a couple of months. And it would update the case, and it would add some value, I think, to an AFA 85 R2D2. Next up, we had a UKG older case style. The grade was an 85%, and this was the PvP Imperial Commander. So another Spanish figure, no COO. That sold at auction for $89 plus $25 shipping. I thought that was a pretty great deal, quite honestly, for a Spanish figure that really presents nicely. Any kind of foreign variation, I think, to get for under $100, especially in a high grade 85% UKG, that's a really good deal, and someone got a steal of a deal on that one. Here was a UKG 80% Zuckuss, but I wanted to show this one because this is the harder to find no COO. And so these appear on like Palatoys or Palatoy Trilogos. The Trilogo Zuckuss is not like ultra rare like a General Maydeen or a Jawa, for example, but it's not very plentiful. It's not something that's easy to find now. And to get a loose graded no COO Zuckuss that was graded 80% by UKG, that sold for 92 bucks, 80 pounds plus shipping. I thought that was a pretty great deal overall for a brand new case style Zuckuss. Next up, we had a UKG 85% Hong Kong Biker Scout. Really pretty example here with the brand new case style. I think I actually had this in a what to buy video, but don't quote me on that. That one was listed for 160 pounds or about 185 US dollars plus shipping. I thought that was a pretty good deal. That's a really nice example of a Biker Scout. Tough to find those in very high grade. Next up is a UKG 80% Hong Kong Max Rebo. And I like this new kind of case style. This is the first time I've ever seen this case style for just Max Rebo by himself. And, usually you see like the whole band graded in a very long rectangular case. And I'm not a big fan of that case. Collector Archive Services does have a very ingenious case for displaying the whole band together. But in this case, this is just the Max Rebo by himself. That sold for 195 pounds or 225 US dollars. I thought that was a great deal, and it presents very nicely. Next up, we're going to dig into some last 17 figures that sold. This was a UKG 85% Han Solo Carbonite. This is the older case style, but it sold for 210 US dollars, which is 242 US dollars. Tough to find a last 17 Han Carbonite for that kind of price, especially in very high grade like that. So I thought that was a very good deal for a UKG 85% Han Carbonite. Likewise, here was another example. This was an AFA 85, and that sold for 310 US dollars or 458 Australian dollars. And I wanted to show the comparison there, right? To go from a UKG 85 for 242 US to an AFA 85, it's $310. So not a huge premium in this case, but it just depends on the item and who's out there looking. But this was also at auction, so I just thought that it was a nice tight price range, even though one of them was a UKG 85 and one of them was an AFA 85. But I just wanted to point out that price difference when switching grading companies. Next up, I could not believe the sales price on this. This was an AFA 90 Yak Face, older case style, but wow, a 90 grade. And that price was pretty eye-popping, $1,599 plus $35 shipping. Wow, that is a big number. And, again, is it fair? Probably. I mean, we've documented some AFA 85s and 85 pluses that CIB has sold over the last few months that have hit in that $1,100 to $1,300 range. And those were AFA 85s and 85 pluses. And we all know about the big premium sometimes you got to pay to go to a 90. So is it fair? Yes. Would I pay that? No. I have an AFA 85 Yak Face with the brand new case style, and I think I paid around $600 or $650 for mine. And again, that was a little while ago. That was probably about a year ago or more. But $1,600 is a big number, but it's not. There can't be many 90 grade Yak Faces out there, and it was certainly a really surprising number. Finally, we had a kind of a custom from AFA where they graded the coin, and then they also loose graded the A-Wing pilot. And the A-Wing pilot graded 80 with the brand new case style. Again, it had the clear view label up top. And then the coin itself graded in 85 plus. Really nice combination that presents nicely. It's a very compact presentation. That one sold for $500 on one bid plus $16 shipping. And, is that price fair? I don't know. To me, that price seems pretty fair, just given what A-Wing pilots sell for loose and ungraded. So in this case, you're getting a high grade loose graded A-wing pilot plus the coin all in one nice custom presentation. So $500 took that home plus $16 shipping. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll be back soon.